implore him to comply with the Constitution as it relates to trying to send people to foreign prisons without due process. Judge Wilkinson writes, this should be shocking not only to judges, but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear.
Imagine being so terrible that even your biggest fans start turning on you. That's exactly what's happening to Trump right now, as one of Reagan's favorite judges just called him out for basically trying to burn down the Constitution. Yikes, Orange Man. Judge Wilkinson isn't just any conservative. He's been the poster boy for judicial restraint for 40 years. Now he's written a 7-page roast of Trump that's so savage it would make Comedy Central jealous. What did our former Cheeto-in-Chief do that was so bad it made this Reagan appointee finally snap? Stick around to find out why even Trump's judicial fanboys are jumping ship.
This is now the crack, the fissure that we've been waiting for, frankly. This is federal judges that are unassailable.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Ever wonder what it takes for a Reagan-loving judge to finally turn against Trump? Apparently, it's trying to demolish the entire justice system like it's just another failed Trump casino. Today, we're meeting a conservative judge who's had enough of the Orange Menace's nonsense. And folks, this is like watching your strict grandfather finally snap at the family reunion. Let me introduce you to Judge J. Harvey Wilkinson III. And yes, that name alone sounds like he came straight from central casting for rich conservative judge. This isn't just any right-wing judge. This is Reagan's judicial mini-me, who's been waving the conservative flag since 1984 when Reagan put him on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. For almost 40 years, this guy has been more consistently conservative than Fox News' primetime lineup. Wilkinson has made a whole career out of telling other judges to stay in their lane. He's basically the traffic cop of the judicial world.
By a constitutional scholar who has written books in order to encourage judges to restrain themselves.
Always pulling over activist judges and writing them tickets for being too creative with the law. This man once wrote that judges should practice restraint so religiously that they might as well take vows of judicial celibacy. He's been telling his colleagues to keep their hands off policy decisions longer than most TikTok users have been alive. His conservative credentials? Impeccable. We're talking about a judge so conservative that when Reagan nominated him, it was like Reagan was looking in a judicial mirror. Wilkinson clerked for Supreme Court Justice Lewis Powell, taught at the University of Virginia Law School, and even ran a newspaper in Virginia. He was literally on Bush's shortlist for the Supreme Court twice. This guy is so right-wing that he makes other conservatives look like they're at a Bernie Sanders rally. Throughout his career, Wilkinson has dropped rulings that would make liberals ugly cry into their oat milk lattes. He voted to uphold Virginia Military Institute's men-only policy until the Supreme Court overruled him. He's ruled against environmental protections, worker protections, and once wrote that the Second Amendment doesn't actually give individuals the right to own guns. Not because he's anti-gun, but because he believes in judicial restraint so much, he didn't want courts making that call. That's not just conservative, that's conservative inception. For decades, Wilkinson has been the ultimate team player for conservatives. He's like the guy who always brings the beer to the party and never complains about cleaning up afterward. He stays in his lane, doesn't rock the boat, and reliably advances the right-wing agenda without making a fuss. The kind of judge Republicans point to and say, "See? That's how it's done." But here's where our story takes a shocking twist that not even M. Night Shyamalan could have written. This same Reagan-loving judge just wrote a 7-page takedown of Trump that's so brutal, it should come with its own content warning. I'm talking about a judicial smackdown so complete that it belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame. In his concurring opinion on a recent immigration case, Wilkinson didn't just disagree with Trump's actions. He took a metaphorical blowtorch to them. I won't spoil all the juicy details yet, but imagine the most polite bow-tie-wearing judge essentially telling the former president that he's acting like a wannabe dictator who's treating the Constitution like it's optional reading.
Grinding effect of the Trump administration, grinding against the judiciary in a way that lessens both.
Coming from a liberal judge, Trump would dismiss it as fake news faster than he scarfs down a Big Mac. But from Reagan's judicial bestie, that's gotta sting worse than his spray tan when it rains. What's in this opinion? Let's just say Judge Wilkinson uses words like dangerous, disturbing, and suggests Trump's actions could lead to nothing less than the collapse of our entire system of government.
Judge Wilkinson writes this should be shocking not only to judges but to the intuitive sense of liberty that Americans far removed from courthouses still hold dear.
Again, this isn't some blue-haired liberal. This is a Reagan appointee who probably has a shrine to the Gipper in his chambers. The real story here isn't just that Trump got scolded by a judge. That happens to him more often than diaper changes at a daycare center. It's that even the most dedicated conservative judges are abandoning the Trump train because some principles actually matter more than party loyalty. When judges who've spent 4 decades defending conservative values think you've gone too far, maybe, just maybe, you're not actually the defender of the Constitution you claim to be. While conservative judges usually save their harshest words for liberal policies, Wilkinson reserved his judicial flamethrower for something far more dangerous. A president who deported a man protected by court order then shrugged like it was no biggie.
This is on page 5. The executive, the president, possesses enormous powers to prosecute and to deport. But with powers come restraints.
Let's talk about the case that made our Reagan superhero judge transform into Trump's worst nightmare. Meet Kilmer Abrego Garcia, a guy who was facing some seriously scary gang threats back in El Salvador. We're not talking about mean tweets here. This was life or death stuff. So, American courts did what they're supposed to do. They gave him legal protection from deportation. The courts basically said, hey government, don't send this guy back or he might get killed. That's an order, not a suggestion. But Trump's deportation squad apparently thought court orders were more like those employee must wash hands signs in restaurant bathrooms. Technically required, but nobody really checks.
Implore him to comply with the Constitution as it relates to trying to send people to foreign prisons without due process.
They shipped Garcia back to El Salvador faster than Trump can spell hamburger, completely ignoring the legal shield that was supposed to protect him. And get this, the Supreme Court later confirmed what everyone with a functioning brain already knew. The deportation was completely illegal. When caught with their constitutional pants down, the Trump administration came up with an excuse so ridiculous it would make a 5-year-old cookie thief blush. They claimed they were powerless to bring Garcia back after they illegally deported him. Imagine robbing a bank and telling the judge, "Sorry, Your Honor, I already spent the money, so I guess we're all powerless to do anything about it now."
On page 2 of his order. Further, it claims in essence that because it has rid itself of custody, that there's nothing that can be done.
That's basically the level of their legal defense. Judge Wilkinson wasn't buying this nonsense for a second. He asked the million-dollar question. If the president can deport immigrants against court orders today, what's stopping him from doing the same to American citizens tomorrow? It's like giving someone the keys to your house to water the plants, then coming home to find they've sold all your furniture and claimed there's nothing they can do about it. This wasn't some isolated incident where Trump accidentally stepped on the Constitution's toes. It was part of his greatest hits album of judicial disrespect. When Judge Boasberg ruled against some of Trump's precious policies, our former Cheeto-in-Chief launched a full-scale social media tantrum, calling him a radical left lunatic and a troublemaker and agitator. Trump even suggested impeachment, because nothing says, "I respect the separation of powers," like threatening to remove judges who don't bow to your wishes.
And what assurance shall there be that the executive will not train its broad discretionary powers upon its political enemies? The threat, if not the actuality.
Judge Wilkinson saw through this whole charade and didn't mince words. He warned that if presidents can pick and choose which court orders to follow, we might as well use the Constitution as toilet paper. The consequences, he said, are chilling. And he wasn't talking about the AC in the courtroom.
Not a criminal. It doesn't matter. This is about due process. This is about our constitutional guarantees of Fifth Amendment privilege.
When the executive branch starts bulldozing fundamental principles, it's only a matter of time before the whole governmental system crumbles like one of Trump's bankrupt casinos. The scariest part? If Trump gets away with treating judges like annoying waiters he can send back to the kitchen, What happens when he decides other parts of government are equally optional? Today, it's ignoring a deportation order. Tomorrow, it's ignoring election results. Oh wait, he already tried that one. What makes Wilkinson's warning so powerful is that it's coming from someone who normally wouldn't criticize a Republican president if they drove a monster truck over the Lincoln Memorial. This isn't some liberal snowflake, Judge. It's Reagan's judicial mini-me, sounding the alarm that Trump is treating the rule of law like it's optional coverage on a car warranty. So here's the big, scary takeaway. Wilkinson's warning goes way beyond just one immigration case. If presidents can toss out court orders they don't like about immigrants today, what's stopping them from ignoring rulings about your free speech or voting rights tomorrow? Nobody, not even Orange Julius Caesar himself, is supposed to be above the law. When a judge who spent decades telling other judges to stay in their lane feels compelled to sound the constitutional alarm, you know we're in deep trouble. This isn't just embarrassing for Trump, it's a five-alarm fire for American democracy itself. How many more conservative judges will grow a backbone before it's too late?